How to cultivate and develop a sense of fear is one way to take advantage of the environment, and here, how to do this completely depends on the creator and its knowledge of the art of scare. This process is based on two rules of speed and creation of expectations, both of which seriously get benefits: the characteristics and abilities of the environment and atmosphere of the game, as well as direct relation to your storytelling. And as we said in the previous section, storytelling has a direct relationship with the environment and the impact of the game's fear. If you notice how all these dimensions and elements are beautifully matched with, the other are connected, and the common denominator of all of them is the space and design of the game environment. For example, the extra content of Shadows of Rose-RE Village worked great in this regard, so that when you step back into Beneviento's mansion, the game slowly raises its fears, challenges your expectations, and ends up scaring the player with an extremely creative trick when it reaches its peak. SOR doesn't ask you to run, hide, or fight, but it forces you to look into the eyes of what scares you, and this ideology directly exploits the game's story, characterization, and environment. It's very important how the builder develops fear and its dimensions, and here's how fast and unpredictable he or she is doing it. All of you have probably experienced an effect that has played all of its cards in the first few hours, and then plays you with the empty hand. This inability to manage the speed of the unveiling of the scare tricks and its so-called pacing is very visible in games such as the first part of Outlast, which is merely a walking simulator, because the manufacturer wants to keep the player from the very beginning. Since it is almost gameplay is very superficial, using all his cards, and this causes the player to keep involved after the first few hours of such works turn into a monotonous escape experience. But on the other side are games that manage their fear elements while pacing, and play with the player's expectations using their environment that we have exemplified in previous sections. This can be compared to a footballer who expends all his energy in the first half of the game, performs all his tricks, and demonstrates his ability to the maximum. But in the second half, he is no longer able to do so, nor is he able to be replaced. Now, the opponent's team, which has seen a half of the player's ability and tricks, knows easily what can be expected of him, and how they can repel it or completely turn it around as if a dedicated defensive layer is formed for this player. The speed of using the elements of fear causes the player to create an emotional reaction to the game environment, and adjusts its own expectations of the game according to what is happening. For example, if in a part of the game enters a special environment such as a toilet and there encounters a jump scare, monster, or any other type of fear triggers, this emotional reaction to this environment is created, and since then it is always afraid to enter this environment because it expects something scary to happen. This can well keep the stress and fear of the game environment stable by taking advantage of a pre-used event and trick without having to play at a high speed new tricks and then nothing to show. The game environment is the main dimension of a scary experience that can stabilize its fear and show it as a permanent and forward trend. So if the developers can control this issue, well, it can easily increase the fear and tension of their game, reach the tipping point, and finally open the hell door to the player. In this case, the speed of the upward fear breeding process is optimal, and the player's expectations are constantly challenged, and finally a tense environment is provided, so that the game uses its new fear trick in an optimal and high efficiency.